A man suddenly wakes up from a deep sleep in a pool of blood. Instinctively, he pulls out the nutrient tube that was inserted in his mouth, taking his first breath in life. Just as he is confused by the tubes connected to the back of his head, he is shocked to find that he is surrounded by other humans in the same predicament. Looking up, he sees a deep blue and magnificent power matrix that fills almost the entire space. At that moment, a heavy-duty machine suddenly appears and clamps down on his head in an instant. The man is unable to move. As he becomes more familiar with the control system, the tubes on the back of his head start to fall off. The blind spots of the main control cause the tubes connected to his body to begin detaching automatically. At that moment, the pipes below the pool suddenly open, and the man quickly slides down the slime, landing in a water basin shortly after. Just then, a mechanical arm reaches in from the opening above and perfectly rescues him. He is saved by another half-human, who pierces his body with steel needles. Then he used the stimulation of landing to try to repair his body functions. Although his body was fine, the holes that were once filled with pipes could never be repaired. After waking up, the man saw the structure on his arm and touched the connector on the back of his head, feeling confused. At this time, a human named Mobes appeared and said he wanted to help him understand the true meaning of this world. He had a thick data cable plugged into the interface on the back of his head, and the programmer immediately entered a string of codes, and then Neo's consciousness entered a pure white world. Here, the programmer only needs to enter the corresponding code. Anything you want will appear, and any scene you want will be switched, and all the insensitivity will be truly transmitted to the brain in reality. So if you get hurt here, your brain will think you are really hurt. Here, the consciousness of death will no longer exist, and the body in reality will also die. Then Morpheus told the truth. It turned out that in the 21st century, humans vigorously developed AI intelligence, but AI gave birth to self-awareness and controlled machines to build secret bases in uninhabited places. When humans discovered it, it was too late, and a war about life and death broke out. But humans, all means to defeat the AI army head-on have been exhausted. Since the energy of the AI legion mainly comes from solar power, humanity ultimately resorted to large-scale nuclear explosions to create massive synthetic cancer, enveloping the Earth and blocking out sunlight. Although this initially yielded very good results, it wasn't long before AI found another way. They discovered that the human brain produces weak electrical currents when active. One human might not be much use, but if all humans on Earth were captured and formed a matrix, that matrix would become a massive energy battery. In order to keep the brains of people in the Matrix active at all times, AI intelligence specially wrote a code for a simulated world. The consciousness of all people in the simulated world lives like the real world, so they also have birth, aging, illness, and death, and the dead will be ruthlessly abandoned, decomposed, and become new life so as to ensure that the Matrix can operate infinitely. So Neo's previous life was completely virtual, and the current world is real. Such an outrageous truth makes Neo simply unacceptable. In the virtual world, Neo was an ordinary office worker. In the evenings, he would use his spare time to act as a hacker and make some extra cash, until one day, a woman named Trinity appeared and told him that everything was a lie. At first, he was confused, but the next day, a group of agents showed up and took Neo to an interrogation room. At that moment, he naively shouted that he wanted to speak to a lawyer, but the next second, his mouth bizarrely began to close, rendering him unable to speak. In his fear, he couldn't even react. He was pinned down on the table by other agents. They took an instrument out of the box, which quickly transformed into a mechanical bug and precisely targeted his navel, inserting it there. In terror, he woke up from his sleep, thinking it was just a dream, but soon after, that woman appeared again. Under coercion, he had no choice but to let Trinity use a special instrument to aim at his navel and activate the transformation. While he was still in a daze, a strong electric current surged through him. Then, the mechanical bug was extracted, which made Neo realize that things were not so simple. Afterward, in the virtual world, he was taken to meet Morpheus. Morpheus presented him with 2 pills. Choosing the blue one would allow everything to return to normal, as if nothing had happened, while choosing the red one would bring him back to the real world, revealing all the truths. At that moment, Neo chose the red pill without hesitation, and then he awoke in a pod, rescued by Morpheus and the others. Reflecting on all these events, Neo gradually accepted this reality. Morpheus also told him that in the virtual world, those agents dressed in black are invincible beings. They can not only replace targets and change roles at will, but also possess immortality. They are antivirus software specifically designed by the AI system to eliminate viruses. For instance, when people like them actively enter the virtual world, the system identifies it as a virus invasion, and the agents appear to hunt them down. In the face of agents, they can only escape, and as long as they can connect to a landline phone in time, they can return to reality from the virtual world, which is the only way to confront the agents. Only the awakened savior can do whatever they want in the virtual world. It was precisely the determination of the first savior that saved this group of awakened humans. This is also why Morpheus went to great lengths to rescue him, because whenever the previous savior fails, a new savior is bound to appear, and he is absolutely convinced that you are the new savior, the only hope for humanity to reclaim everything. Seeing this dilapidated real world, they must constantly evade the pursuit of artificial intelligence and always search for safe places. You need to know that Morpheus and the others are actually living very difficult lives. To quickly enhance Neo's combat abilities, Morpheus had the programmers upload the most powerful Chinese martial arts on Earth into his mind in the form of data, allowing him to rapidly learn the essence of advanced martial arts like Tai Chi and Wing Chun in a short time. However, the best way to fully master them is still through actual combat. For this purpose, Morpheus specifically designed a training program. It must be said that this training was meticulously designed not only in terms of the color of their clothing, corresponding to the black and white of the Tai Chi symbol, their positions and heads also highly overlap with the Tai Chi diagram. The director intended to hint at the Taoist heritage you need to consider, and also laid the groundwork for Neo to comprehend the key in Taoist philosophy during the final battle when he becomes blind. However, Neo is still a novice and ultimately cannot match Morpheus, who is currently the strongest among humans. Seeing Neo panting heavily, Morpheus begins to remind him that they are still in the virtual world, questioning why he needs to breathe, which is a wake-up call. Since everything is code, it means everything can be controlled. As a hacker by nature, he certainly knows how to accelerate the program's operation. After adjusting his breathing, he quickly reaches the point of creating afterimages, defeating Morpheus. Morpheus realizes that the training has started to show results and immediately instructs the programmer to switch to the next scene. In an instant, they find themselves on the rooftop of a tall building. This time, Morpheus wants to teach him a necessary skill for surviving in the virtual world, which is the ability to ignore gravity and leap like Superman. Neo was no longer surprised by this, thinking that this would be a piece of cake for him who was good at coding. However, the leap he had imagined did not happen. Back. Off my back. Fortunately, the programmer modified the ground description in time. Otherwise, this jump would have ended the Matrix series. Morpheus was not discouraged. He believed that Neo's awakening would take more time and require the guidance of the Prophet, so they linked the AI system virtual world again. Since the system has noticed Neo's reality, this operation must be done secretly. However, Morpheus never expected it. The problem will arise from within. This bald man with a beard, having suffered from poverty in the real world, secretly played a role before the operation. Agent Smith offered to delete his memory and return to the virtual world as a top-tier wealthy person in exchange for going undercover. At this moment, Neo and the others are still completely unaware and continue to follow the original plan to the Oracle's residence, only to find several other candidates waiting in the hall. Unlike Neo, these young people have varying degrees of determination at such a young age. This little girl, who seems to be well-versed in Buddhism, particularly piques Neo's curiosity, and she tells him something. Everything is infinite. As long as you change your underlying perception of greed on a conscious level, whatever shape you want it to take, it will take that shape. This statement is like a revelation, playing a crucial role in Neo's subsequent awakening. In fact, Neo is about to meet the Oracle.
Done. Days. Buddhists.
Did you know? We're just still broken it if I have the seven. However, the Prophet is not as legendary as he imagined. He said that he is just a string of program codes, although he can deduce or guide what is bound to happen based on known variables. But he also had no way to accurately calculate the cause and effect of human beings outside of the established. Because you people with self-awareness, every decision will affect the future. He said that Neo would face a difficult choice soon, so he couldn't be sure whether Neo was the only savior. After coming out, Neo saw Morpheus's face full of confidence and couldn't bear to expose the Prophet's words that he might not be the savior. The fact was, when they were about to return to the real world, you need to spot a black cat that looks exactly the same passing by repeatedly. This immediately puts Morpheus and the others on high alert. This phenomenon is caused by the system changing parameters and being affected by a pulse, indicating that the agents have discovered them. Sure enough, all the doors are locked tight. In reality, the monitoring data tank also detects code anomalies, and they can only choose to escape through a weak electrical shaft. But they are eventually discovered by the pursuing guards. In the next moment, the guards suddenly show expressions of pain. His arm began to deform, completely kicked by Smith. Then he penetrated the wall with his bare hands and grabbed Neo. In the crisis, Morpheus didn't care so much and planned to use himself to hold Smith in exchange for Neo's chance to escape. Hennessy quickly grabbed him and jumped to the ground. But just as they arrive at the handover point preparing to return to reality, the phone suddenly goes dead. It turns out that the traitor, the bald man, had contacted the tank responsible for the pickup ahead of time, returning to reality and ambushing the tank, cutting off his connection to the virtual world. Then he starts to pull out the data connectors from the others, separating their souls from their bodies, causing two of their allies to die on the spot. Just as he's about to go after Neo, the bald man is severely injured, and the tank wakes up, turning the tide of the situation. At the beginning, the two successfully escape, but Morpheus is captured alive by the agents. To find out the location of Zion, the humans hide out in reality. Smith uses every trick in the book. At this moment, Neo, back in reality, remembers what the Oracle said. He is now facing a tough choice. Should he pull out Morpheus's data cable to secure Zion's position, or should he risk it all to go back and save him? But going back would undoubtedly be a death sentence. After some thought, he makes his decision. A savior must have an invincible belief. Moment, but if you retreat, then there is nothing to talk about. So accompanied by Trinity, the two dressed up and returned to the virtual world again, wearing sunglasses and a windbreaker, which is also the coolest and most impressive outfit in the Matrix. These security guards are just ordinary virtual humans, not agents, so with the cooperation of the two, they easily broke through the security system of the building, which quickly attracted the attention of the agents. After replacing a guard, The battle above was about to start. The difficulty of the agents was that they could greatly speed up their movements, and weapons like bullets could not hit them at all. Just as he started to fight back, a famous scene came. At that moment, Neo's speed was almost at the level of a bullet, but his fire control was not good enough, so he was still a little short. Just when he was about to be killed, the virtual land appeared in time. At such a close distance, there was no way to avoid it. This temporarily repelled an agent. When the agent returned to the room, an armed helicopter suddenly appeared outside the French window, and the pistol could not hit it. Then you can taste the power of this Gatling gun. As the bullets fell like raindrops, the agent's speed was still unable to catch up with the Gatling gun. But as the barrel stopped turning, Neo still looked serious, because they didn't have much time, and whether Morpheus could be rescued depended mainly on himself. At the same time, Smith resurrected again. In the haze, Morpheus seemed to realize something. Relying on his tenacious willpower, he forced himself to wake up and break free from the handcuffs. But at this time, Smith had returned again, and his furious shooting penetrated the wall and hit Morpheus's calf. Neo predicted that Morpheus could not jump over by himself, so he quickly jumped up and connected the safety rope in mid-air, successfully stopping the two. Seeing this, Trinelli quickly started the plane, and ignored Smith at all, calmly drove down to the plane's fuel tank, and the plane gradually lost control. Seeing this, Neo threw Morpheus to the rooftop below at the right time. In fact, she landed successfully, but Trinity was still inside. She didn't want to give up any of her teammates, so she subconsciously grabbed the safety rope beside her. Fortunately, Trinity's reaction was fast enough, and she jumped out after shooting the rope, thus avoiding the end of both of them dying. Although the picture was slow, everything actually happened in just a moment. So the rescue of the concrete floor made the two of them have a strange feeling for the first time. But now the most urgent thing is to leave here quickly. When Morpheus answered the phone and left, he did not notice that the beggar next to him witnessed this scene. Soon, this message was captured by Smith, and the beggar was replaced by him. This happened to be the moment when Trinity left. Although she successfully returned to reality, her phone was broken. Neo now has two choices: to stand or to escape. The invincible belief sprinted towards the students again. You have to take the initiative. Smith is right behind him, and just moments before, he already knew the opponent is coming. In the first round of their confrontation, neither side gains the upper hand. With no bullets left at home, Neo quickly gathers his strength and creates distance, indicating that the next phase will be a test of close combat skills. But just as they start to fight fiercely, Morpheus in the real world is also facing big trouble.